Before we get into the daily financial news and we talk about David Tepper going all in on China and much more economic news, I would be remiss if we didn't send out our thoughts, prayers, hope to the folks dealing with the tragedy that is Hurricane, I'm going to say Helene? It's not Helen, it's Helen with an E. The devastation that I have seen on some short videos is incomprehensible. I have never personally been through a hurricane, so I know absolutely nothing about it. But what little I know is I would have expected the damage to be kind of on the coast. And it appears most of the damage was significantly inland and not in Florida, but North Carolina, Tennessee, and others. Some of the pictures I have seen give me pause, and I can only remember Katrina, which obviously was devastating to New Orleans. I think a lot of the area is still cut off, and I think we will unfortunately hear about a lot more loss of life in the coming days. So I say all of this to just remember that we all are in this together. If you can help, please help. I'm sure there will be opportunities for us to pitch in, help, and the like. It's pretty bad what I've seen out there. All right, let's pivot. Let's take a moment and pivot to what we normally do here in the daily financial news and talk about what's caught my attention. The last couple of days, you have heard me talk about some stimulus going on in China. I think in one past video, we talked about it being a bazooka. Well, folks, China is not done. It appears that on Friday, they announced another $284 billion, with about 50% of that aimed at local government and departments. And the other 50%, get this, on stimulus, pure stimulus. They are sending checks, stimmy checks, I think we called them here in the United States, to low income and the poor. China is in a contraction. We have talked about it for several years. They had perhaps the largest real estate bubble known to man that then crashed and cracked. And they have lost faith in the consumers. When you or me loses faith, what do? You stop spending. You hoard cash because you are concerned for the future. Maybe you did some real estate investing, bought a second home as your pension, and now you realize that that is either wiped out or a sour investment. So China has a long way to go. They definitely seem committed to spending hundreds and hundreds of billions. This is not over. But that said, we have already seen some Wall Street titans change their tune. I caught an interview on CNBC with David Tepper. David Tepper appeared to be almost giddy. Almost giddy. He says that he is going all in on China. In fact, he broke his own rule about allocation or diversification. He said he had a max rule of 20% in any one area, and he acknowledged that he is breaking that currently. I have no idea if investing in China is a good idea or not. Obviously, with the stimulus, the last 3 or 4 days, the stock market has ripped higher. Definitely seems like the government is going to do everything they can. So, at least according to David Tepper, he is going all in on China. What I turn around and think about is what are the second order derivatives? We now have China, the second largest economy, stimulating in a big way. We now all have the U.S. cutting rates. We have Canada, Europe cutting rates. Are we headed back to an environment where rates go low and liquidity increases? Folks, if we get lower rates with more liquidity, You know what that means. It certainly means that assets will inflate. Does it mean consumer inflation will follow? That is the thing that I am constantly looking at and will be looking at in the very near future. Remember, folks, a big part of consumer inflation is not goods, it's labor. It's labor. So if we get into a situation where we have true inflation again and we see large labor increases, which is a good thing, will that ripple through to other things? Those are my concerns. Those are the things I'm watching. Folks, I don't know if you saw this, but we got some significant revisions last week. Most of the economic revisions to date have been negative, i.e. we lost 818,000 jobs like that. Well, if you're not paying attention, there was actually a pretty positive revision last week that bears mentioning. Folks, the savings rate. Remember when we were talking about the American savings rate being low at like 2.3%? We've never been here before. You know, the world is ending. Doom is here. Well, it appears that the saving rate was inaccurate. It rose significantly to nearly 5%. So again, we are seeing that perhaps the consumer is stronger than we are led to believe. Now, as always, I think we have a bifurcated consumer. We have the haves and the have-nots. But it does appear that the savings rate is not as weak as we had thought. On top of that, GDI, gross domestic income, not gross domestic product, which is GDP, GDI. GDI is something that Anna Kelly has brought up in our series several times over the last 12 months. She was highlighting that GDI is purporting to be a very low number compared to GDP. Well, it looks like it was revised up and revised up significantly. For example, it went from positive 2.1 to 3.4% real. Again, you got to remember this is a real, which means it's adjusted for inflation. If you were to back out inflation, that would be a nominal 6%. So again, something to look at here. Let's talk about where we are in the economy. Obviously, we just got Q2 GDP final print, 3%. What are we saying about Q3, which will be over in a matter of days? According to GDP Now, we are at 2.9%. Pretty hard to have a recession if GDP is at 2.9%. Trueflation has us below the Fed target at 1.51. What does this all mean? Well, I think the Fed has told us that they will be focused on the job market. They want to get back to neutral or R star or whatever you want to call it, interest rate. So again, I expect a 50 basis point cut in November. Let's talk about the important economic numbers of the week. Again, we head into a new month shortly. What are the key economic numbers for the week? So the calendar looks like this. Monday, we will have 2 Fed speeches, including Jerome Powell and Michelle Bowman. We got to remember that Michelle Bowman was the Fed president that dissented. She wanted a quarter, where everybody else wanted a half. Anytime Michelle Bowman speaks for the next 4 or 5 weeks, we should pay attention. Is she changing her tune? Is she digging in her heels? And of course, when Jerome Powell speaks, we should listen. He is the chairman. He is the guy running the bus. On Tuesday, we will get consumer spending, ISM manufacturing PMI, and our first of 3 jobs numbers. Folks, we will get what is called the JOLTS report, aka job openings, plus 2 Fed speaks. On Wednesday, we will get our second of 3 jobs numbers. We will get ADP, aka private payrolls, which will be 4 Fed speeches on Wednesday. Lots of Fed talk this week. Thursday, we will get initial weekly unemployment claims. Again, remember, these have been trending down. This is our weekly indication of the job market. We will have 1 Fed speech, and then the big number of the week will be the Bureau of Economic Labor Statistics on non-farm payroll. Non-farm payroll is expected to be 144,000, with an expected unemployment rate staying flat at 4.2. And then we'll close out the week with one more Fed speech. So again, it's all about jobs, jobs, jobs. The Fed told us it's all about jobs, jobs, jobs. So it is a week to pay attention. It starts on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then again on Friday. What is going on with real estate? What is going on with active listings, pendings, all of that? Shout out Logan Montashami from Housing Wire. He put out an excellent piece yesterday talking about lower rates are starting to firm demand. Again, I do not believe we get any real demand growth until rates go under 6%. More about that in a minute. What is Logan saying in his article? In short, it looks like pendings are up year on year, which is interesting given we are heading into the slow period. Last year, we had 340,000 pending homes. Today, we have 362,000. Again, 24, 362,000. Last year, 340. So up about 22,000. Logan also says in the piece that rates need to go below 6 to get any real demand growth. I think the most interesting question as a real estate investor today is when or if rates go below 6%. And again, of course, when I say that, I am talking no point or what the mortgage brokers call par. Without question, you can get rates in the 5s today. And if you want to pay enough points, you probably can get something with a 4 handle on it, which is pretty wild. Logan highlights that 5 weeks in a row, we have had purchase applications grow. 5 weeks in a row is a trend. So purchase apps are growing. In fact, this last week, we had our first year-on-year growth in purchase applications. Active listings are still growing. Folks, we are in a buyer's market. Again, buyer's market, right? Disrespectful offers, follow up, do what we do here on this channel. Active listings grew to 371,000 from 325. New listings, 63K, last was 56. And price cuts, 39%. Historical average is 33, so we are significantly above that. And last year was 38%. I do want to shout out Nathan, Raymond, and Michael. We had 3 people join our amazing school community in the last couple of days. Nathan, Raymond, and Michael, thank you for being here. Don't forget to introduce yourself. Take some of the boot camps, whatever you like. Again, I am aiming to be the #1 real estate investing school on school. Currently number 4, and we are right behind number 3. So if you are already a member of school, do me a favor. Let's put some comments, some questions. Let's interact. If you have yet to join school, please join school today. Again, we will be the #1 real estate investing school on school very, very shortly. Already, I believe, in the top 700 of all schools. Let's talk about PCE. PCE obviously is the 3rd inflation reading. It came out on Friday. And of course, we don't record on Fridays. Basically, PCE came in as expected, except PCE core. We got to remember, PCE core is important. It's the one the Fed looks at. It is up again. It went up 2 months in a row by 0.1%. Last was 2.6, came in at 2.7. But again, it was forecasted to do that. Month on month, though, was down. It came in at only 0.1, so we are heading in the right direction. Got an article from the CEO of Compass. If you don't know who they are a real estate firm, probably talking his own book, but I did think it was interesting. Says that buyer demand has jumped 20% as rates fell 1%. So again, I think Logan put it best, demand is firming. In order for us to pull marginal demand off the sidelines, I think we need below 6. And then lastly, folks, I want to shout out Ulysses. Ulysses came on the channel last week and talked about mortgage fraud. Mortgage fraud. Ulysses believes that there is a lot more fraud in the system than I do. Ulysses believes that this fraud is so large that it could lead to a significant home crash. Again, it was a very interesting, nearly hour-long conversation. Again, I have these conversations with people that have data, that have opinions, because I don't want to be blindsided. What is an example of mortgage fraud that I truly believe happened? Folks, I believe a lot of people jumped on the Airbnb second home market. I believe this is the problem, some of those folks said they were home buyers, meaning owner occupant. And if you gave them truth serum, they would tell you they had no intention of living there full time. To me, that is mortgage fraud. Why is that a problem? Well, why did they do it? Lowest rates, lowest down payment. If you're buying an investment property, you typically need 25%. If you were buying a home to live in, you can get in for 3.5%, 5%, 10%. Also, rates on owner-occupant homes are down. Rates are lower, I should say, than investment loans. But here's the deal. While mortgage fraud may be slightly worse than I do not think 50% of mortgages are fraud. I think that is unrealistic and not possible. But again, is there fraud in the system? Certainly. The question that I ask is, when does this become a problem? When does this potential mortgage fraud become a problem? I think Palm Springs, California, is the greatest example. If you happen to be buying a home in Palm Springs as an Airbnb, you happen to get a homeowner loan, and then somewhere shortly after you purchase, Palm Springs changes the rules. Palm Springs has changed the rules, changed the game, and suddenly made Airbnb or short-term rentals, frankly, unprofitable and nearly illegal. So if you had no intention of ever living in this home and you overpaid for a short-term rental in a market where the rules have changed, that is going to hurt. Now, I do think that Palm Springs will suffer significant price crash. But to think that what is happening in Palm Springs is going to spread to the country, frankly, the state, is illogical. There absolutely could be some foreclosures, cash for keys, short sales in Palm Springs. The rules changed. The game changed. Just because Palm Springs is showing pain does not mean California will show pain. Doesn't mean the West Coast will show pain. And certainly doesn't mean the country will show pain. So at the end of the day, folks, I think paying attention to anything that could cause mass selling, mass listings is important. I don't think mortgage fraud, as it's currently put together, is that big thing nationally or even at a state level. Could it hurt a city or two? Absolutely. Absolutely. At the end of the day, folks, most importantly, we need to congratulate somebody for doing the work. I want to congratulate Elix. Elix, congratulations for getting your next deal. Your card will go out in the mail today, I guess tomorrow, today's Sunday. Again, Elix, congratulations. We send out black cards when anybody in the community gets their second deal or more. If you do get your first deal, you get a gold card. Alrighty, folks, do me a favor, join school. We want to be the #1 real estate investing school on school. We are adding value weekly. We have 3 accountability groups, 1 today, 1 on Monday, 1 on Wednesday. We have boot camps and seller financing and creative financing and econ, and we got all kinds of courses, access to millionaires, Q&A. It's right there for you. Join school today. Later, folks. Take care. Bye.